Ever scarf down a huge plate of pasta and like an hour later you're hungry again?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what gives?
Yeah.
Well, today, we're going to arm you with the knowledge to fight back against those cravings.
Okay.
We are diving deep into how different fats, eaten with or without carbs, actually send signals to our bodies in ways that you might not expect.
Yeah.
It's like food is more than just calories, like this whole language that our body is speaking.
Interesting.
And to help us translate all of this, we have our expert on hormones and metabolism. What has you excited about this deep dive?
Well, I think what I find so fascinating is that we often just try to simplify things into like, fat is bad.
Right.
Or carbs are evil, but it's way more complex than that. Our bodies are these crazy systems. And this research paper we're going to get into really reveals just how intricate those interactions are.
Absolutely. We're dissecting a 2010 study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism.
Okay.
And they looked at how different types of fat, lard, olive oil, safflower oil affect our systems when eaten alone.
Wow.
Or paired with everybody's favorite, the potato.
It's a potato. Nice.
And they didn't just like throw any meal together. They really controlled it.
Yeah.
25 grams of fat and 50 grams of carbs from potato.
Oh, wow.
To really isolate how these specific foods influence our hormones.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's like choreographing a dance.
Right.
And then, we get to analyze each move.
Yeah.
So before we reveal the surprising results, let's meet our dancers. Okay, so we've got glucagon. It's our blood sugar booster. Think of it like a shot of espresso for your system.
Okay.
Then there's GLP-1, which steps in after a meal to help regulate insulin.
Right.
And signal that feeling of fullness.
Okay.
And of course, we have Ghrelin, the hunger hormone.
Everybody knows that one.
Yeah, the one that's like, feed me.
Yes.
From your stomach to your brain.
And then there's his friend, what is it, acylghrelin?
Yes, acylghrelin.
Yeah, that's the one.
Ghrelin's even more persuasive friend.
That's right, that's right.
Okay, so we've got our hormones ready to go. Let's see what happens when we put fat in the spotlight first.
Okay.
No carbs allowed, just fat. So you might think, okay, eating fat by itself is going to send those hunger signals through the roof.
Right, right.
But this study found something really interesting. All three fats, lard, olive oil, and safflower oil, actually made ghrelin levels go down.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, eating fat on its own seemed to actually quiet those hunger signals.
So it did the opposite of what you might expect.
It seems counterintuitive, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Fat is digested slower.
Right.
So it's like, okay, we're satisfied, at least for a little while.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But here's the other twist.
Okay.
While ghrelin dipped down, both glucagon and GLP-1 went up after those fat-only meals.
Huh. Interesting.
Wait, both of them?
Yeah.
So the hormone that's like, hey, we need more blood sugar.
Right.
And the one that's like, okay, time to release some insulin and feel full.
Right.
They both increased after eating just fat.
Yep, that's what they found. And that's what makes it so fascinating because it really suggests that maybe our bodies use that energy from fat differently than we thought. Like maybe we can tap into some of those fat stores more readily than we thought.
Interesting. So far, we've got fat kind of doing its own thing. But what happens when we invite carbs to the party?
Yes.
The classic combination, fat and carbs. So in this case, they added potatoes to the mix. How did that change things? So the fat and carbs are mixing it up now? Potatoes are in the mix? What happened?
Well, those big spikes in glucagon and GLP-1 we saw with just the fat.
Right.
Those basically disappeared.
Really?
When the potatoes were added.
Wow.
It's like the potatoes came in and said, all right, everybody calm down.
Right.
We got this.
So the carbs actually changed how the body reacted to the fat.
Yeah, it seemed to kind of like mellow everything out a little bit.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so what about ghrelin? Did the potatoes keep that hunger hormone in check?
Well, you would think that, right?
That's what
adding in those carbs, you'd think it would keep those hunger pangs down.
Yeah.
It actually did at first.
Okay.
Initially, ghrelin went down.
Okay.
But then it rebounded.
Oh, no.
And not just back to where it started, but to even higher levels than before the meal.
So even though we think of potatoes or carbs in general as being filling, they might actually make us hungrier later on.
It's possible. This study just shows us how complex our bodies are.
Right.
And how much we still don't know.
Yeah, it really highlights that what we thought we knew about, like carbs are good, fats are bad.
That isn't always the case.
Exactly. It's not that simple.
It's way more nuanced than that.
It's all about the interplay
right.
between these different things that we're putting into our bodies.
So this has been a fascinating look at how the foods we eat send all these signals
Yeah.
to our systems. What's the big takeaway for our listeners?
I would say the big takeaway is to pay attention to what you eat.
Right.
And how it makes you feel. Don't be afraid to experiment a little, see what works best for you.
It's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
This has given us a lot to think about.
It has.
Thank you so much for breaking this all down with us.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
And for our listeners, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.